One of the great things about Zack Snyder is when you look at his movies, you see repetition. And Zack Snyder's imagery is incredible. I'll show you what I mean. So, when you look at Zack Snyder's imagery through the trilogy, you'll notice that there's this theme of baptism. Now, the theme of baptism goes beyond Clark or Superman, okay? But I want to particularly look at it as it relates to Clark and Superman. In Man of Steel, we have the baptism of Clark and the school bus. So if you look right here, the school bus is about to go plunging into the river, all right? And it goes underwater, and you see the children struggling there. We see that Clark leaves the bus as it's sinking, and he goes into the water. And then you see the bus sinking, the children are drowning, and Clark is able to push the bus back out of the river into the land. So there's the baptism of the bus. It goes under the water, comes back out. The kids go under the water, they come back out. Clark goes under the water, he comes back out. Of course, he dives back into the water, and he goes and he gets Pete Ross, and he pulls him back out of the water. Now, it's interesting that when we look at that set, it's really Clark saving mankind. Okay? Clark is saving mankind. That's the point behind it. And it's the first time we see Clark saving mankind in the entire Man of Steel. It's very important to remember. Now, in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, we have two baptism scenes where Clark or Superman, whichever you want to look at, I think it's preferably Superman, is involved. In the first scene, Superman is acting like how Clark behaved in Man of Steel. He's saving mankind. And so, in this case, the center of his attention is Lois. Lois, in this case, she purposely chooses to dive into the water because she has no choice. Everything else is going to explode above her, so she dives into the water. On diving into the water, pieces of the building fall, and it blocks Lois from getting out to get a gulp of air. So she struggles under that, and she's just like that entrapped child in Man of Steel. The imagery is incredible. It's a very similar likeness, and even the color of the water and everything. So she's struggling to get out of the water. Clark hears her, and he flies in, removes the pillars of that were blocking her from getting water. She's drowning. He pulls her out the water, and she manages to catch herself. And she lives. Clark saving Lois. But in that same scene, Clark goes diving in for the kryptonite spear that he sees. And when he gets the kryptonite spear, he's incapacitated. He's weakened by the kryptonite spear. And now he's in need of help. And for the first time, we see a change, a flip of the script. And that's in Batman v Superman. It's very pivotal, Batman v Superman, because it changes the dynamics. Where now, for the first time, mankind is saving Superman, or mankind is saving Clark. And so Lois comes and pulls Clark out of the water and saves him. And that signals a change in the dynamic. And as we all know, Superman and mankind, they have a symbiotic relationship where Superman saves mankind, mankind saves Superman, right? So it's very interesting that here now we see that shift in the dynamic. And in this case, we see the baptism of Superman and the baptism of Lois. Of course, Superman must be baptized to save Lois, but now we see Lois baptize herself to save Superman. I thought that was just very interesting. Again, complete submergence of both characters. So after Superman has after Lois has gone through the baptism and been saved by Superman, she is able to save Superman, who's now gone through that similar baptism, which I thought was very interesting. Now, at the end of BVS, as we all know, Superman died. So what's very interesting about this is in Justice League, now it's all completely up to mankind to save Superman. What's interesting about it is they're not saving Superman, they're actually saving Clark. And that harkens back to Man of Steel when we first saw Clark. Clark saved the kids in the school bus. It's Clark that saved mankind. Even though you could say it's just Superman, he wasn't Superman yet. And it's very interesting that Zack Snyder comes full circle and he draws a parallel between Man of Steel and Justice League in that the Justice League is about to save not Superman, but Clark. Very important. It was Clark. It wasn't Superman. All right, remember there were two separated funerals, one for Superman, one for Clark. In this case, it's Clark that we get. And so Clark Joseph Kent, he's dead. His corpse is then submerged by Aquaman. So Aquaman takes out his corpse from the coffin, and then it's submerged. And while it's under the water, another human, the Flash, he is able to activate the Mother Box, which brings Superman to life, and he bursts out of there, up into the sky, and he is like a god. So it's very important to understand Superman was like a god, and Zack was trying to portray that godlike image of Superman versus man, because the relationship is a god here saves mankind. Again, a god, reiterated from Man of Steel, saves mankind. But it's a transitional point. So people are saying, well, why is it that Superman went back diving in and Lewis had to save him? Because Zack was doing an imagery. It's like a mirror. So this is one end of the mirror here, and then here comes the other end of the mirror. This is the other end of the mirror where Zack wanted to show the reflection of that. So Superman had been doing all the saving, or Clark had been doing all the saving from Man of Steel to that point in BVS. Clark had been doing all the saving. Of course, Lewis had been trying to save Superman, and then by extension Clark, in what she was doing throughout the movie. And so this imagery now sums up mankind now going to save Superman, and it was in the form of Lewis. Okay? And that signaled a change in the paradigm where from there on in, we would see mankind in Justice League saving Superman by bringing him back to life. And of course, Batman, Bruce Wayne, was adamant on that. And it's interesting that it's a bunch of humans that actually save Superman or participate in that. It's Wonder Woman's not participating in it much. Aquaman's not participating in it much. It's Batman's idea. It's Cyborg, who's half human. And it's the Flash, who's fully human with super abilities, that actually participate in bringing Superman back to life. Notice I said participate directly. And that's a very important point. So Cyborg's the one that gets the Mother Box set up. The Flash is the one that actually activates the Mother Box. Batman's initiative. And we'll notice that it's the three humans. It's the three full humans. Or, well, Cyborg's not a full human, but it's the three humans anyway who actually agree on this. Wonder Woman didn't want to bring back Superman. Aquaman sided with her. So they were more spectators in the whole process. And I thought that was very interesting. And so I just wanted to give you this video because I'm going to put it out as a meme on Facebook. And so this video is coming out before I put it out as a meme on Facebook. But I thought this was very interesting, the dynamic between Superman and mankind. And to me, it's a reflection of mankind's relationship with God in some respects. No, God doesn't need saving, but for God to save the world, there must be a symbiotic relationship between God and man. I also think that it's a symbiotic relationship between leaders and people of communities. I think that leaders, yes, they have to help enhance communities, but they sometimes need help themselves by the communities. And I thought that was just very interesting. And also, it's interesting that the communities that help them, some of them have vested interest in it, and others may not agree. So I thought this is all right there, and I think it's instructive to us as how to proceed as leaders or forerunners in communities and in groups. All right? That includes the DCEU and Justice League. I thought you guys may enjoy this video. I thought it'd give you a little bit of insight. There's so much in these movies. They're very, very rich. And that's why I like the DCU so much. I hope you appreciate it like me. You guys have a great night.